The Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association presents Freshman Focus. A look at 2-year-olds in training across the Buckeye State. Freshman Focus is presented by Eldorado Scioto Downs, now racing Tuesday through Saturday, post time 5:45. By Sugar Valley Farm, looking for your next quality standard-bred racehorse? Look no further than Sugar Valley Farm in Delaware, Ohio. And by the Ohio State Veterinary Medical Center, caring down to a science. And now here's your host, Roger Houston.
Welcome to another edition of Freshman Focus. We've made the trip to Winter Circle Training Center south of Columbus to talk with trainer Scott Mogan and his son Zach Mogan with their stable of Ohio-bred 2-year-old pacers and trotters. After this message, we'll be back, sit down and talk with both Scott and Zach.
Racing is back at Eldorado Scioto Downs. Catch the excitement all summer long. Live racing every Tuesday through Saturday nights. First race post time is 5:45. Mark your calendar to see the future stars with a $150,000 Next Generation July 6th. Thrilling harness racing at Eldorado Scioto Downs. One track, 90 racing days, 100% action. Horse players can earn points with the new Caesars Reward Program. Eldorado Scioto Downs. Racing returns May 9th.
Welcome back to Freshman Focus with Scott and Zach Mogan. And Scott, you've been involved in harness racing all your life.
50 years. Yeah, 50 years since I'm 15.
Started out with
Jim Pollock Sr. He's married to he was married. Jim passed away 2 years ago, but he was married to my sister, and that's how I got in the business.
Zach, you're 29 now. Have you been around harness racing all your life as well?
Yeah, as long as I can remember. Yeah.
Did you ever think you'd do something else?
Never.
Yeah.
Everyone all through school asked me, and all my teachers knew what I was going to do, so they never pushed college, and
Yeah.
my parents really didn't either.
I hear you're quite a golfer.
Yeah, probably what I should be doing more, but here I am.
Was Dad a good teacher with that?
Yeah. Taught me a lot of patience.
Patience in harness racing. Is that something the good trainers all have?
Yes, I mean, I feel it is. Of course, I'm old school. I mean, like I said, I went to work for Joe Adamski at the age of 19 for 4 years, being his assistant trainer. Joe taught me patience. I was lucky enough to grow up around Scioto Downs when Gene Riggle had a large stable. Glenn Garnsey shipped his stable in there. George Schulte, and I tried to watch him on the track and everything, and I always thought all the top trainers back in the day had a lot of patience with their young horses.
Now, you mentioned Joe Adamski. Very important to your career.
No, yeah, immensely important to my career. I don't think I'd be where I'm at today if what I learned. When I worked for my brother-in-law. I learned how to work hard and take care of horses, but what Joe taught me about training young horses and just the person he was has been vital to my career.
And when you became a trainer, you were stabled next to Joe. You even used him as a driver sometimes.
Yeah, late in Joe's career, him and Lindell just had a couple horses, two or three horses, and they were at the end of my barn. And when I let Joe do a little catch driving, and I thought Joe in his day at Scioto was as good as any driver there was. Especially he could come first up with a horse and make him live forever. It seemed like to me anyway. Yeah.
You've driven.
I have, yeah.
But you decided to be a trainer more than anything.
Yeah, it got to the point where they were going to catch drivers. That's kind of the way the owners were leaning. They wanted, the younger guys. Actually, I was very fortunate. The first horse that Chip Noble ever drove for me, and I drove against Chip for years, and I knew how much talent he had and what a great guy he was. But he drove a horse named KF Pro Sam at Northfield. First leg of the sire stake as a 2-year-old, and he pulled up, had the 8-hole, finished 5th, was charging through the lane. He pulled up, and this is how good a horseman Chip Noble was. He looked across the horse at me, and he said, "Do you own part of this horse?" And I said, "Yes, I own half." He said, "You better take care of him. He's going to make you a lot of money." And for 2 years. He was the 2-year-old horse here in Ohio, the 3-year-old horse for Ohio, the 4-year-old, and Chip drove him. I sold him at the end of his 3-year-old year, but Chip drove him every start for me as a 2- and 3-year-old. I said, if he feels that strongly about the horse, you know, you're the man that's going to be behind him.
Zach, did you ever want to be a driver?
Yeah, I tried it when I first started with my own, and he gave me a couple drives, and Kane Kaufman actually retired me. He was letting me drive one of his better trotters, J.J. Hall, and he was just getting checks for me, and he decided to put Kane back up, and Kane had the 9-hole and went right down the road and went in 54, and I said, that's enough for me. I'll try training.
Now, as a trainer and such, do you like training the horses?
Yeah, I love it. It doesn't feel like work. I mean, every day's different and everything's a challenge, so I love it.
If you have a vocation that you really enjoy, it's not work, is it?
No, I mean, every day's different, and these things, I mean, they're horses, they're not machines, so you bond with them and they become part of your family, so it's not work at all for me.
Scott, did you bring Zach along kind of slow, or did you jump right to it?
Not actually. You know, through school, he played sports. He played baseball for several years. Then he got into golf and kind of got away from baseball, played golf, a hell of a golfer through high school. And he really didn't, you know, he'd come to the barn on Saturdays, but he wanted to be on the golf course. He wanted to be at the barn. Then all of a sudden, you know, he was mother, you know, lived in Pennsylvania at the Meadows and was married to Dean Collins, and he spent a summer over there and worked for them. And then that's when he really kind of got the bug, and then on, it's, you know, it was all.
Now, you got 2 separate stables now. He's got his own stable. You're stabled together, but it's kind of nice when one of you have a problem, you can go to the other and get their opinion.
Yeah, for sure. And it also, you know, if he's got a real busy day and I've got a lighter day, I can jump in and jog a couple for him, and vice versa. And normally, especially when we're racing at Miami Valley and Dayton, he does a lot of my shipping, most of it, to tell you the truth, which helps me out a lot. It gives me more time to spend at the barn and everything when you have to leave early to do that.
How big of a stable do you have, Scott?
I've got 18 right now.
How many 2-year-olds?
6.
6. All Ohio breds?
All Ohio, yeah.
Zach, how many horses are you training?
We've got 8 here right now. We had 10, but 2 of them were Pennsylvania bred pacing fillies, so we sent them out east to let them handle that. So we've got 8 here right now.
You want to get a big stable one of these days, even larger?
The number of horses don't really bother me. I'd rather, the quality is more important to me than the number, or so I'd rather, as long as they're good horses. 8's a good number as long as they're beating horses and making money.
How are you with the young horses, the 2-year-olds?
I gotta have a lot of patience, but if I'm struggling, I have him go with them or ask questions. I mean, I'm always trying to learn from them as much as.
Now, the 2 horses we're looking that you've got here today, one's a pacer, one's a trotter. Do you like the trotters?
Yeah, I would prefer the trotters. I love trotters.
Scott, you have primarily pacers, but you also have a few trotters.
Yeah, normally it's the other way around. I normally have young horses. I normally have more trotters than I do pacers, but just it worked out differently this year. A couple of pacers are homebreds, so that kind of got switched around a little bit, but it varies from year to year. But I prefer.
When I look down at all the 8 horses that we're looking at today, there's only one stallion that you have 2 with, and that's Lather Up.
Lather Up, yeah. I've got a nice Lather Up colt for Rebecca Buckner out of Forever Ivy, good mare that Tom Brinkerhoff raced, and his half sister actually held the track record. Hot Shot Temptress at Scioto Downs until last year, 51 and a piece, as a 2-year-old pacing filly. Really nice colt, growing. He's had a little growing pains here lately. He qualified a week ago Monday, made a little mistake mid-stretch, but he was pacing somewhere he'd never been before. The other Lather Up is actually a half-sister to Gold Digger King, and she's had some health issues through the spring. She's a little behind. She's been in 2.9, 2.8 and a piece maybe, so she's a few weeks away. Kind of a nice filly, got a little bit of an attitude, but I like both of them really, both the Lather Ups.
You mentioned Gold Digger King. Is he probably one of the best you've ever had?
Yeah, I put him in the class with KF Pro Sam. They both love to race. They love to win. They just give you all every week. But I've, of course, like I said, I sold Calf Pro Sam in his 3-year-old year. He did come back to me for the Ohio races in his 4-year-old year, but he did have a career-ending injury at the end of his 4-year-old year. But I've never had a horse put together 6 straight years of what Gold Digger King has done.
Now, my question on that is, now here you got, he's a great horse. Okay, what makes a horse a great horse?
I think a great horse is born great. You know, I heard a top trainer from up east a few years ago down in Lexington, and I just was overhearing at the sale looking at yearlings, and he had a new owner with him, and he was talking to Steve Jones at Cameo Hill Farms. They were naming some of the horses he had trained over the years, and the owners looked at him and said, "Man, you've made some great horses." And he looked at him and he said, "I didn't make them horses great. They were born great." He said, "Horses are born great. It's a matter if we messed them." He didn't use a little different language, if we messed them up or not. But I think that a horse is just like Gold Digger King. He's got a heart of gold. He'd rather race. He doesn't like to be turned out. He'd rather be on the track all the time.
The one thing though, and I gotta throw this in, you can have a great horse and all that, but you've got to be a pretty good trainer to get along with that great horse and know the proper things to do.
Well, like, only credit I've ever taken, the same way with Calf Pro Sam, I always gave my best horses all the credit. Only credit I take is managing them. You know, some people think you can just race them week in and week out, and you know, I don't start like he races 20 starts a year, maybe 22 to 3, and I think that's why he's lasted that long.
Scott, how in the world do you manage your day training horses, racing and such, and also being president of the Ohio Harness Horsemen Association?
Well, it's been kind of hectic, but you know, and I joined the board 12 years ago, 11 years ago, and Dan Ader kept asking me to get on the board, and Zach was in sports, and I told him, I said, until Zach graduates, Dan, if I come on the board, I want to not just say I'm on the board, you know, I want to contribute. And being the president's not something I strived for. It just happened to work out that way. You know, I was vice president last year for Steve Bateson. They asked me to, and I accepted. And yeah, it's, you know, but like I did an interview with Midwest Harness last week, and I said the good thing is, you know, if I got a meeting or something, I get to the barn early anyways, but I'll get here extra early and get as much done as I can. If we get a quarterly board meeting, I got a great staff, so if I have to leave early, I don't have any worries and everything. But yeah, but I'm not one to sit around. I need something to do all the time anyways.
Zach, occasionally you have to step in and help the old guy out, don't you?
Yeah, whenever he needs me, I do as much as I can for him. But he pretty much has everything under control on his own.
Well, I'd like to thank both of you for sitting down and talking with us. And after this message, we'll head into the barn and take a look at the 8 2-year-old Ohio breds in the Mogan operation.
At Ohio State's Galbreath Equine Center, our veterinary champions are here for your champions 24/7, 365 days a year. Our expert team of boarded surgeons, sports medicine and rehabilitation specialists, together with veterinary cardiologists, internal medicine, and ophthalmologists, make our hospital your best resource for all sport horse performance issues. The Ohio State Veterinary Medical Center's Galbreath Equine Hospital. Call us today at 614-292-6661.
Welcome back to Freshman Focus. We'll start off with Zach Mogan talking to us about Allie's diagnosis by Uncle Peter out of Vapor Rises by Vaporize.
Yeah, this is our filly owned by the Wadaker family. She's a half sister to Pass the Vape, made over $750,000. And he's been bread and butter for them, so we're hoping she can carry the load.
Now, this is the first horses you've had for the Wadakers?
This is the first year, yeah. I trained a couple of their 2 coming 3-year-olds back, and then we had 3 babies. We turned one out a little early, and we've got 2 of them right now.
Kind of taking the pressure off of Derek, who has become the lead man at their outside business.
Yep, he took over the construction, and they've given me a couple of horses, and Chase has been one of my best friends for as long as I can remember, and I'm just grateful that they gave me the chance with their horses.
Tell us something about Allie here. Pretty good trotter?
Yeah, she's great gaited. She's a little behind. She got really sick on us a couple months ago. She battled a week of high temps, but she's a fireball. She's got an attitude, and but she's really coming around on the racetrack finally. And she's growing up a ton for us.
How much you been with her?
She's been in 25.
25.
Yeah, she's a little behind.
Will she eventually catch up with them, or?
Yeah, we're going to start 2 trips next week, and main thing, she just got really behind, and that really put me behind the 8 ball because all the other 2-year-olds are going faster, so she didn't have a whole lot of company. Yeah. But yeah, she'll get there.
You know, the wildest thing is that might be good.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, she's only been in 25, but she's growing a ton, and her attitude's really coming around, so hopefully it's a blessing.
This is the filly Allie's Diagnosis by Uncle Peter. This is the colt Seeing Green by Down by the Seaside out of Rose Run Schuyler by the Ponderosa. Who owns this one?
This is also owned by the Wataker family. This is out of their homebred mare, Rose Run Schuyler. So he qualified the other day, 2 minutes. So he's making it. He's a little further ahead than the filly.
Now, you say you qualified in 2 minutes. Did the horse win the race, or?
No, he was a little bit in the back, but we had only been in 2-1 with him, and Ronnie Gillespie drove him for us. I just told him it's all education. Speed meant nothing, so he behaved behind the gate. He passed the horse, so that was all I was worried about.
Now, will you put in another qualifier?
Yeah, we're going to qualify him back Monday. We're going to change a few things and then step on the gas a little bit, see what he's made of now.
Have you had other Down by the Seasides?
My dad's had one. This is my first.
Yeah. Well, tell us something about it. You think classics Down by the Seasides over the past, they've been kind of large, big horses.
Yeah, he was big when we got him, and it just took him a while to mature into his gait and his brain to mature into his body. I mean, he was pretty big, and he's finally filling out. So, and he's figuring it all out.
Does he change with that growth?
You know, he hasn't really. He's just finally starting to figure out what he needs to do, and he was kind of tough for us to get gaited up, but from what I've heard, some of the Seasides can be that way, and he's finally found his gait in the last month or so.
Is he the type of horse that will do what you want him to do, or has he got a mind of his own?
Well, he is still a stud,
yeah.
So
oh.
But at first he was kind of wanting to fight us, but lately he's done everything right, really.
Okay. This is the colt Seeing Green by Down by the Seaside. This is the gelding Real Thriller by Western Terror out of Real Joy by Real Artist. The owner?
The owner is Rick Knoll from Michigan. Got a new owner in my stable from last fall. Currently have 3 horses for him. This is the 2-year-old, and I've also got the 3 and the 4-year-old out of the mare that are racing presently.
Now you say you've got the mare and you run them to the races. Are there traits that they all have?
Well, they're all very competitive horses. The 2 that's racing, they're both nice horses. Yeah, they're all good, decent gaited horses. Good gaited. This little horse, he's grown a little bit, but for a small horse, he covers a lot of ground. And he qualified last Monday, first time in 2-1, got home in 28 flat. Pretty handy passing horses, and that's what I always look for. First qualifiers, finishing strong.
How much had you been before the qualifier?
I trained him in 2-2 out here. Yeah. And,
so there's not much difference then in the track here at Winter's Circle and Scioto?
Not a whole lot. I mean, we have a good track here, but like I said, I don't worry about time. My first time I go, I want a positive experience. I don't want to leave with them first time. I like them ducked, and like I said, I want a positive experience, passing horses and getting home strong.
Do you geld most of your colts?
I do. I'm a big believer in it. I think they just pay more attention to their business. I mean, I've seen a lot of good Ohio breds. I know the breeding is getting better, and that's going to change, I'm sure. But I've seen a lot of good Ohio horses that were studs that stood stud, and they weren't really, they weren't successful. I'm not looking for a stallion. I'm looking for a good race horse and a good stakes colt.
The gelding process, did you do it early or?
Yeah, I try to do it after I get them broken, going good. Usually around the 1st of December, I like doing it. Yeah.
Take advantage of cold weather.
Cold weather, and you know, well, I haven't lately, but I used to take a vacation after I get them cut and going, get them healed up, and that way. But I don't like to wait. I've waited a few times on horses that I thought, you know, they didn't show signs of needing cut, and the owners didn't really want to. And then you get it down to training down, and then you have to castrate them, and then you start losing time.
Yeah. This is a gelding Real Thriller by Western Terror. This is a gelding pacer. Hot Times Tonight by Lather Up out of Forever Ivy by Stan Forever.
Yeah, this is a Lather Up colt owned by Rebecca Buckner of Apple Creek. He's a homebred, very nice colt out of a good mare that she raced. Her and her husband Leonard, Leonard has since passed away, but he's a nice colt. He actually qualified a week ago Monday also. Made a little mistake mid-stretch. Just was pacing quarter and 27 or better, 27 and a piece. Just kind of overpaced himself and made a little mistake, but I think he's a nice colt.
Had you trained him down at Scioto?
Had not, no. The first time, you know, we'd ever been to Scioto. First time they'd ever seen the gate. The two that I went with last week, they were both good about that. So we do schooling here. I had one day of schooling, but I schooled my trotters, but I didn't school the pacers.
Yeah. Now, you've got two Lather Ups. Do you see anything similar between the two?
Both good gaited, both very good gaited. The mare's, she's built differently. But like I said, she's a half sister to, which we'll see her shortly, to Gold Digger King, and that mare, they're damn throws big horses, and this colt has grown into a nice, really nice looking horse. But they're both, he's very, very willing, sometimes overly. It's kind of what got him in trouble, I think, the other day, wanting to go more than he needed to be gone. She's a little bit on the laid back side, but goes when you ask her to.
So he's one of those horses kind of wants to do what he wants to do.
Yeah, well, not so much that way. Now, I had a brother to him last year, Dancing Yankee. He was that way. He wanted to do what, but this colt, like I said, he's just aggressive, and he wants, you know, he acts like he's got a very good racy attitude, and he was wanting to pass the horses, and they were coming a pretty good quarter anyways, and he just got a little out of kilter.
This is the Lather Up, Hot Times Tonight. This is the filly Chickaboom by Long Tom out of She's Not Red by Emil Angus.
That's a filly we purchased at the Circleville sale, at the jug sale. Last Laugh LLC, which is Gail Potter up in Bucyrus, is one of the owners, along with Green Wave Racing from Newark and myself.
Are you familiar with the mare She's Not Red?
I am. I actually raced She's Not Red her whole career. She was a good filly for us. She's got some age on her now, but she's thrown some nice horses. Gail has actually purchased several of them at Last Laugh. But this filly, I thought she was a small mare. She's Not Red, and she doesn't throw real big horses. But I thought this was the best conformation horse she had thrown. I look at them every year, and yeah, she was second in the finals, a 2-year-old sire stakes. Was actually the 1-5 favorite as a 3-year-old in the final, the sire stakes, and made her only miscue of the year in the first turn, and made a break, and unfortunately for us, but went on to race till she was about 6, and it was a nice race mare, open mare.
Now, She's Not Red, Chickaboom. Are there any similar traits?
Yeah, I think a lot. This filly's got a lot of talent. She's quick like her mother was. A little over-aggressive, which her mother could be, even though her mother, like I said, very rarely ever made a mistake. But this filly has kind of been that way training down, so I hope she has a lot of traits for her.
You've had other Long Toms?
I have, yeah. I had a nice filly 2 years ago, I believe. Midland Acres now bought, she had an injury. She was a nice filly for us as 2- and 3-year-old. Midland Acres took her back for a yearling credit, and she's now a brood mare.
This is the filly Chickaboom by Long Tom. This is the filly Gold Streak by Lather Up out of Hope for Pot Gold by Pan Pacific Flight.
Yeah, this filly's owned by Linda Van Camp in Circleville, and homebred again, homebred filly out of her mare, and she's a half sister to Gold Digger King. Training well. She had a few issues with health, nothing soreness or lameness that way, but she had a little colic issue once, and then some virus, so she's a little behind. She's been in 2.8. So I'm just trying to not get in a hurry with her, and hope she develops in
Now,
a nice filly.
over the years, you've had quite a few horses for the Van Camps.
Actually, Gold Digger King was my very first one.
Really?
Yeah, and since then, yeah, a couple a year. She's got 3 for her right now. I knew the Van Camps. I grew up in Circleville. I knew them forever. Actually, Jim Pollock, who I started with, he used to train their horses before he got out of the business. But yeah, I got a phone call one day from Linda, and TD had passed away, and a couple years earlier, after the foal was born, and said, I'd like to come down and look at this colt. I'd like maybe for you to train him for me, and I'm sure glad I went down because it was Gold Digger King.
A little funny story. When I went over to Oslo, Norway, I had dinner with a gentleman by the name of Van Camp. And he says, I've got an interesting story for you. And I says, what's that? And he says, I went to the Jug a few years ago and I saw this parking space marked Van Camp. So I just parked in it. I said, how did they know that I was coming? But that was their parking
Linda's
space.
spot, yeah.
This seems like a real good size filly.
Oh, she's a good size filly. The mare, she throws big horses. I mean, every one of them are nice size horses. The 3-year-old half brother, the 2 of them, is a big colt. He's almost as big as Gold Digger, and Gold Digger just seems, I think he gets bigger every year. I don't think he's still growing, but it sure seems like it.
Do the big ones give you some problems?
Well, sometimes they can on a half-mile track, but like Gold Digger was so good gated, he never had a problem with a half-mile track. Just been how they're gated.
You don't do much racing at the fairs anymore, do you?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I do have to go, but I prefer not to if I don't have to. Try to stay. Nothing wrong with the fairs. I mean, a lot of people love them. And just for me, when you got a stable and you got to ship the horses yourself or send somebody to ship them, and then if you don't leave early, or you get there and you end up sometimes some tracks, not all of them. Some of them have got stable areas that can handle everybody, and other times you get there and you're racing out of your trailer and stuff.
Those folks that have race at the racetracks and race at the fairs both, their days are almost like 22 hours long.
It can be, yeah, for sure, yeah. So yeah, I saw when I was on the broadcast at Circleville, I can't remember who it was now, but they were racing at Circleville, and then I got in the paddock Saturday night and they were up there racing, and
It makes for a long day.
yeah, very long, yeah.
This is the filly Gold Streak by Lather Up. This is a gelding trotter perfect signature by What the Hill out of Timel signature by Dewey, Cheatham and Howell.
Yeah, this colt we bought at the Buckeye Classic sale. Steve Bateson and myself and Dave Wills from Newark, Ohio own him. Actually, he was bred by 2 of our past presidents, Kevin Greenfield and Steve Bateson, owned the mare. So I purchased him out of the sale. Steve stayed in on part of him, and so yeah, nice colt. Been in 2-7 twice, probably a week to 10 days away from qualifying.
All these past presidents and now you're president, you ought to change this one's name.
Mr. President?
Yeah, Mr. President.
Yeah,
You say he's a little behind the others?
not really. I mean, the 2 trotters that I have both been in 2-7 twice. Said that, our stakes program's not starting until mid-July this year, so I didn't really get in a big rush with him. Probably like to qualify Monday, but I'm not sure he's quite ready. Might wait another week.
Now, if you've been in 2-7, when you get to those qualifying races, do you basically tell the driver how fast you want them to go?
I don't tell them how fast. I just tell them how, when
Don't,
it doesn't
don't
always
get
work
after
out.
them
But,
all that much.
but yeah, I just don't want them. I want them racing behind and passing horses. And just a positive experience the first time for me. I don't worry about qualifying time for a stake race or anything like that. We have time for that.
Normal situation, qualify twice?
Yeah, at least twice, 2 to 3
At
times.
least
At least
twice.
twice, yeah. Normally twice, and if we can get maybe a start at Scioto, we won't be able to do that this year. If we go in the first leg, it'll just be 2 qualifiers. But yeah, at least 2.
When does a trainer finally find out what they've got? Because right now you think you know what you
Right.
but the qualifier's changing.
Yeah, well, people ask me, you got any good 2-year-olds this year? I mean, they ask that every year. And I just tell them, I'll let you know when they, I let the horse talk speak for themselves. Even if I think I got a good colt, I don't tell people, I don't brag on them, because I've had horses that I thought was really good colts that disappointed me, and then I've had others that I thought were just okay, and that boom, they got behind the gate and field of horses, and the lights come on, and So I just let them, you know, I tell them, I said, you know, you always think you get good ones till you tie into the rest of them, then you may not.
When they get to the races, do you have a certain driver you want to drive your horses?
Well, I mean, like I said, I got spoiled. Chip drove my horses for 12 years, you know, and the game has changed so much with the young drivers, you know. There isn't not much educating them anymore. It's speed, you know. They want to go, you know, they teach them speed, but I mean, Tyler's driven a lot for me. I actually was, Sammy Widger was doing me a good job this year driving a lot of my horses. He hadn't driven any of the babies yet because they hadn't really started, but until he got injured the other day. So, you know, we're out 3 drivers right now. It hurts.
You mentioned Chip Noble. One thing they always said about Chip, he always had a lot of horse coming home.
Right, yeah. I used to tell one of my owners, Doug Millard in Canada, you know, we had J.J. Hall and ML Cupcake the same year. And well, she was the 2-year-old filly trial of the year. He was a 3-year-old colt trial of the year. But, you know, Chip, if he could win by a length and a half, he'd win by half a length, you know. But Doug would say, he drives me crazy. Does he ever get excited? And I said, Doug, when you see him start getting into one pretty good, that's when you want to worry because he knows they're getting to him. I said, if he's sitting chilly like that, he knows he's got horse and they're not. But I said, I always said he keeps a lot of gas in the tank.
In so few words, he was the perfect catch driver for a trainer.
Oh, like I said, yeah, bar none for me. I mean, we're here. Yeah.
This is a gelding perfect signature by What the Hill. This is the gelding pacer New Kid on the Rock by Pet Rock out of Kelly's Kindness by McArdle.
Yeah, this colt we also purchased at the Scioto sale at Circleville at the jug sale. He's owned by Steve Bateson, myself, and Charlie Geiler. Nice colt. Well, he trained today and 2-2 and a piece, so he's about ready to qualify. Done everything right. Same way, he had a little bit of virus, got a little behind my other 2 pacing colts, but he's training good. Yeah.
When they get a little behind the virus and stuff, is it hard to get them to catch up? Or?
Well, I try not to make them catch up. You know, I try to give them time. My theory has always been I'd rather get there late than not get there at all. You know, same way if a horse soars up a little bit, I'll back right off with them. You know, because they're babies and they're still growing, and their joints are still filling in, and so yeah. But, this colt was, I believe, the mare is owned by Brad and Sis Wallace at Hickory Lane. We bought him out of Hickory's. We were up there looking at yearlings, me and Steve Bateson, and we were looking at something else, and we were in the barn, and I looked up, and this colt's walking towards us loose. He'd got his gate open, and he walked right down to us. So we ended up liking him after we looked at him, and I didn't know for sure we were going to buy him, but I told Bateson, I said, maybe it's an omen, I don't know, but we did end up buying him. It's a sale.
Maybe he was looking for you.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, he didn't try to. He could have run out the other end of the barn, and he just come walking down to us. But of course, we had a horse out in the alleyway. Maybe that's why. But he wasn't excited or anything. He just come strolling down to us.
Now nowadays, the horses that you get at the sale, they're more broke than in years past.
It's unbelievable. I mean, that's like, you know, like Zach and some of them. I said, you guys have no clue what it used to be like to try to break these things, and you know, now we can snap the jog cart on and go. It used to be in the old days we had to tie them in. They tried to get them to stand there while we tied the carts in, and yeah, it's just, well, they, you know, the farms do so much more with them. You know, a lot of them, you know, they put them on the wheels and stuff, and yeah, it's amazing how the difference. I mean, you'll get one now and then that's, you know, pretty rowdy and stuff that might give you a bad time, but not very often.
Did you break all of yours?
I did, yeah. I enjoy breaking colts. Sooner one of these days I may not feel that way, but I like breaking babies.
Well, one benefit you got is you only have 6 of them.
Right, yeah. We had 10 last year, but there was a year at Scioto between mine and I broke Doug Millard's babies that were going to Florida, and then I get a call from Brad Baxwell in Canada, who trained some horses for Doug, and he said, you'd be interested in breaking 7 babies for me, and so we broke 27 that year up at Scioto. Yeah. So.
That must be, I don't think you ever wanted 27 in your barn.
No, I'm pleased with the number I got right now. Like I said, I'm not getting any younger, and you know, I don't mind slowing down a little bit.
This is the gelding New Kid on the Rock by Pet Rock. Well, that wraps up another edition of Freshman Focus. We'd like to thank Zach and Scott Mogan for giving us some valuable time out of their busy schedule today, and the caretakers as well. We hope that you will join us again next week, same time, same location for Freshman Focus.
This has been Freshman Focus, a look at 2-year-olds in training across the Buckeye State. Freshman Focus is presented by El Dorado Scioto Downs, now racing Tuesday through Saturday, post time at 5:45. By Sugar Valley Farm, looking for your next quality standardbred racehorse? Look no further than Sugar Valley Farm in Delaware, Ohio. And by the Ohio State Veterinary Medical Center, caring down to a science. Freshman Focus is a presentation of the Ohio Harness Horsemen's Association.